Hey guys, it's Ben again with the DIY Homefront, and today I'm going to be using the stump bucket that I built. So let me show you what I'm going to do with it, and I'll give you a quick talk before we get started. This is the area behind my fence, and normally I had a path a little bit wider than a lawnmower that I could get through here, but most of the time I was forced cleaning this area up with a weed eater. And if you want to maintain a fence, I hate to say it, you have to get to both sides. Just no way around it. And I built my stump bucket, and it has been doing a really good job of pulling up all the palmettos. And I really managed to clean quite a bit of room up. So this is the area that I'm working on now. And I can barely get my 42-inch riding lawnmower through here. Well, if the truth is to be told, it's a whole lot easier to spend 30 minutes on a lawnmower than it is to spend 30 minutes holding a weed eater. So let's see if we can't get this last little area cleaned up, and then we can move on to the next project.
Well, thanks for choosing to watch my video, and if you have any ideas or questions, leave me a comment.
Well, in the center of those palmetto bushes, we've got an old tree that's been there for a long time. And right next to it, we've got a currant tree, probably an oak tree that's probably about 8 or 9 inches around, that I cut a couple of years ago that's grown back. But I'm going to leave the camera here static, and we'll just film how the tractor works, and we'll talk about it when we're all done.
Well, I will go ahead and speed the video up and do some creative editing, and maybe I can make this interesting for you to watch. Well, for me, I have found the best way to use this stump bucket is to not go right at the palmetto bush, but to go maybe 1.5 feet away from it, and then start digging down underneath it so you can remove some of the dirt and get at the roots that are holding the palmetto bush in place. It also feels like if I take the end of the bucket and do that tilt mechanism, that the teeth on the end of the bucket and the teeth on the side of that stump bucket really seem to grab a hold of the roots and the ground and just rip stuff up. One downside is once I have these palmetto bushes pried away from the dirt and they're loose, I have to get off the tractor and throw them out of the way. Otherwise, they keep the stump bucket from doing any more digging. Well, I had been at this for about 15 minutes, and here is the first of those 2 stumps that was in this cluster. This is from a tree that was cut down and actually died, so the stump and the associated roots were rotting. Now, one thing I haven't shown you is that as I take the stump bucket and dig in and remove the dirt, I'm just literally backing up and letting it dump out on the ground in front of me, and then riding over it with the tractor. I'm almost to the point where I'm going to need to stop what I'm doing and get the rake out and sort of rake everything level and smooth so I have a nice even surface to run the tractor over. Well, I think that's the last of the palmetto bushes that were in my way, at least before I get to the stump that's still alive with the large root base. Well, even though I think I've got all the palmetto bushes out of this area, I still have a bunch of roots left from both that dead and live stump. And I'm going to go ahead and use the tractor and sort of try to dig behind this area and try to sever any of the roots that might hold the living stump in place. I'll also give the tractor a few minutes to cool down. I noticed that all the cylinders on the front loader were extremely warm to the touch, and I just don't want to overheat it or abuse it. Well, with the tractor parked and cooling down for a few minutes, I'll go ahead and get started cleaning up this area and preparing to get the rest of that live stump. Well, even though the stump bucket's doing a pretty good job cutting through the roots, if you end up getting one of those palmetto bushes on the end of it, it can't seem to push through that, and you really have to get it out of the way before it starts cutting into the roots again. And you can see all the loose roots that I'm picking up as I rake this area and smooth out the dirt. Here's a complete pile of all the roots that the stump bucket has ripped out. Well, I'm going to go ahead and trim back all the live branches that are growing out of this stump to make it easier for you and I both to see what it actually looks like and where the stump actually is, along with any of the roots around it. Well, you can gauge how big the stump is from my hand.
That little stump there is going to be a lot harder to get out than you would think. Again, for a size comparison, that's my hand. That's a pretty big one.
And that was the dead stump. And here's a pile of all those palmetto bushes that I've pulled up out of the ground already.
But I'm going to get that cart emptied and get a glass of water and take a little break before we get Johnny back and start at it again. Well, after I thought about it, I decided it'd be best if I tried to get that stump up by going at it from all different sides. So I went ahead and took the fence out.
Well, here is the above ground portion of the stump if you're having a hard time seeing it. This time I'll start about 2 feet away from the stump and start digging down underneath the roots and see what I can accomplish. Well, after only a few minutes, I've got a lot of dirt removed from underneath this side of the stump. And as I go to push on it, you can see the whole ground around this is starting to move. So we are freeing up this stump. Now I'll start digging around the other side of this stump. Now I've got 2 more pine tree stumps to dig up. And I think when I do those, I will paint the stump orange. So that way it's a lot easier to see where the stump is as we're digging it out. Well, it's probably been about 10 minutes that I've been working at this, and I really do have it pretty loose on these 3 sides, but I just can't get to the back. It doesn't appear that this oak tree has much of a taproot or one that just goes straight down underneath the trunk, so I'm hoping I can flip this up and maybe just break it loose. The only downside I can see to my stump bucket is the fact that I have a small tractor, so I've got a small stump bucket. I'm having to really make a lot of scoops to try to get any amount of dirt from underneath this stump because it just really doesn't go that far out or hold that much dirt in this little stump bucket. However, I have to say, this little stump bucket is working, and I believe I have got this little oak tree about dug out. Now I've got a decent sized hole in front of the tractor, so I'll use the stump bucket and try to fill in this little hole I've got so that I can reach across and try to get the stump bucket. If I could drive around to the other side, I would just grab it from that direction. Well, it appears that I've got the stump completely loose and freed, but I'm just lacking the ability to try to lift it or remove it with this stump bucket on the end. So what I think I'll do is I'll get my chain out and see if I can't wrap a chain around this stump and get it the rest of the way gone. That stump's a little bigger than it looks like once it's out of the ground.
Well, I don't think I would have been able to get that up if I hadn't moved the fence. I had to definitely get at it from all sides, but that's a pretty big stump and it worked just fine. That gives me some more confidence to try maybe something a little bigger. I think I probably got about $400 into that stump bucket I made, and it's definitely doing the job. And that's a lot cheaper than putting a backhoe on a tractor. Not that I couldn't use one, but it's just a lot cheaper. Well, thanks for watching. I'll keep you up to date on what's going on at the homestead. Until next time, like, subscribe, check out those playlists, and I'll see you in the next video.